Hello, in this lecture we are going to know more about the CPU and what are the properties of the CPU and how to configure them. To get access to the CPU, we need to select the CPU and then go to the PLC tab and then go to module information. The module information will give you everything you need about the status of the CPU. So first, the operating mode of the CPU run. So our CPU is running. Give you the firmware version of the CPU. Our CPU type is 414-3. The system identification schematic 300. So this is general information. If you go to the diagnostic buffer, it gives you any event messages that the CPU has. So currently the CPU in run mode, it changed the mode from startup to run at that time and that date. There is like a request of automatic warmer start, it had here, memory reset started here. So any event message will be stored in that buffer. And then you have the settings here, which events you want to store. OB start events, synchronous event error events, asynchronous error event, stop event, mode execution event. Anything you want to be stored, you can identify here. And then there's another tab here to say how many entries you want to be stored or you want to be read out. So you can put a pre-select value or put it as default. Okay, so this is the diagnostic buffer. Second tab we have is the memory. So the memory usually is very useful to know how much you have consumed out of the memory. As long as you do online modification and you download the CPU while it's running, the memory will start to getting full and you will get to the point that you need your memory is totally full and you can't do any online modification. So this memory is very useful when you do online modification, because when you do any online change you consume a specific part of memory until you have a full memory and you need to reset the memory, which means to restart the PLC, which is a little bit dramatic if this PLC is part of a running plant and you don't want to stop the process. So you have to be careful when you do any online change. Put in your mind that you are consuming a partition out of the memory. The scan time, so gives you some information about the scan time. So currently our scan time, minimum scan time is 0, maximum scan time, this is the current or last scan time is 10, the longest or the maximum is 54 milliseconds. So the minimum is 10 and the maximum is 54. Scan time monitoring 6,000 milliseconds. So we are safe, far away from the monitoring time. It's still here. So this system time, nothing to say about here. Performance data, very useful tab. It gives you some information about how much you have consumed of the input, outputs, memory, timer, counters. As we have said before, you have specific number of timers. And that CPU is 2048 timers and 2048 counters. As long as you are using some counters from these 2000, it's getting, you're getting, you're consuming out of this timer. It's not endless. You have a specific number, and you have to put that in mind when you do the programming for any application. How many OBs you're using, 57, and so on. How many FC, how many FB, and how many DB. We already discussed what each of these means. So this is the maximum quantity you can get for each type. Okay. Okay. What else we have? This is the communication. So currently it's communicating with the PG. If you have any other communication, it will be stored here. So give you some information about the communication stacks. You can't do this unless you are in stop and hold mode. We're not gonna do it now. Identification give you some information about the PLC name, the module, the manufacturer, but we're currently running our PLC in simulation, so you will not get much information out of this identification. Okay. Okay, so this is give you this. Now we know what are the properties and the status of the CPU. We're gonna in next couple of lectures we will learn more about how to build this network of remote IOs, and each of remote IO we have some cores. We're gonna create new IO and then we will configure it. Thank you.